Hello, bonjour, namaste, ni hao, and ohio, everybody. How's everybody doing today? My name is Galeriot. We are back on the YouTube channel once again for another Danmachi video. And today's video is all about Season 4 and what I think of it so far. I'm just going to be giving you guys my thoughts and reactions to how I feel about the season so far. Generally talking about some of the improvements they've had, some of the still mishaps that they're continuously doing in this season, and why it's not so bad in all honesty. But also along with that, I'm going to be giving you guys my hopes and expectations from here on out as well. Now, I know that the season is dropping in a couple of days time. This video is actually being recorded 3 to 4 days before the season starts. For you guys, it's probably like a day before the season starts or 2 days before the season starts. So hopefully there's no news in between me uploading this video and, you know, it actually going live and everything. So hopefully that, fingers crossed, that doesn't happen. But you never know, man. Every time I do some sort of video, there's always news coming out within like an hour of me recording it. So hopefully that doesn't happen this time around. But of course, if you guys go on to enjoy this video, smash the like button, subscribe to the channel, all that jazz. I'm going to be doing weekly reactions, I say, weekly reviews on the episodes and my thoughts on it, along with just generally uploading the side stories that is on Danmemo, so that players who don't, viewers who don't play the Danmachi game, gacha game that is, can actually watch it online. So hopefully you guys enjoy that content that I'm going to be dropping for y'all. Of course, comment down below as well. How do you guys like me to format these videos and the reviews in the future? Do you guys prefer this raw reaction, or do you guys want to see more of a structured format, maybe like a review style? Let me know in the comments. I'm curious to see what you guys have to say down below. Now, let's talk about Danmachi Season 4 so far. The first 11 episodes. What did I think about it? Well, I loved it. I actually genuinely loved it. And I'm not saying that because I'm a Danmachi fan. Trust me, if it was like that, I would have been hurling abuse if it was bad. But no, genuinely, I think it's a huge marked improvement over the previous seasons. And there's a couple of reasons why. And one of them is a pretty obvious reason. It's one reason that I think a lot of readers and viewers have been continuously asking for a very long time, since Season 2 basically. Because of course, for those of you who don't know, Season 1 adapted the first 5 volumes of Danmachi. Season 2 adapted, well, 2 and a bit volumes of the series. Basically, volume 8, only a part of the arc was adapted. Not all the stories in volume 8 were adapted, but only a part of it. So it was volume 6, 7, and a bit of 8 that was adapted in Season 2. Season 3 was volumes 9 to 11, and then this season has been volumes 12 to 14, basically, right? So, and there is a small chance we could see volume 15 being adapted a little bit at the end, but I'm not gonna say it's confirmed 100% until we get to that point, because we don't know. We realistically don't know. None of the trailers have shown anything that proves that we're gonna be getting 15 in this season. But volumes, but one of the biggest issues has been they're adapting so many volumes, but they're only doing 11 to 13 episodes every season, and that's been since Season 1 to Season 3. This season has made that change, where we had 11 episodes in the first half of the season in the summer season, and now in the winter season we're having the rest of the 11 episodes, which means that it has had a huge increase in episode count, which was much desired. It was definitely desired, and it was a need more so than anything else, because one of the biggest issues Danmachi has had so far is that, well, one, it's a light novel series, right? The source material is based on light novels, right? And the fact of the matter is that each light novel has at least 300 pages. That's a lot of content to cover in one season, in all honesty. Even one volume is enough to cover the entire season, quite honestly speaking. And the fact is they would try and do like three volumes in like 11 episode seasons, which wouldn't work at all. We've seen this time and time again, with Season 2 being the biggest culprit in my opinion. Season 3 was okay. Season 1 was alright as well. Season 2, in my opinion, was the black sheep in all of this, in all honesty. The War Games arc was a disaster show, in my personal opinion. I cannot believe what they did to that arc. I like that arc, honestly speaking. I genuinely like that arc, and I think it's a key moment in the story as well, with especially the Hestia Familia in general. And it was gutted, basically. It was gutted to another degree, and it wasn't enjoyable whatsoever. What it was in the light novels, it wasn't that in the series as well, and it was a horrible experience to watch, in all honesty. And I don't like ragging on Danmachi, but that was a huge problem, and that was the start of when I realized that, yeah, this is not going to work. Them doing these 11 episode seasons, 12 episode seasons, 13 episode seasons for 300-page light novels, and them doing like 3 of them or 4 of them, it just doesn't work. And then of course we come on to season 3, where season 3 wasn't that bad, but you could tell that they were trying to cram 3 big novels into one like 11 episode, 12 episode season, which again doesn't work. And I know a lot of people would have said, but neither would have 24 episodes. 24 episodes would have been dragged out. I think I would have preferred it being a little bit more dragged out than them just cutting the corners and, you know, absolutely butchering a lot of the main integral scenes in season 3, in my personal opinion. And I think a lot of people would probably agree with me on that one. I don't think it was necessary for them to butcher so much rather than them dragging it out. Finally, it seems like, however, that they've learned it with Danmachi season 4, and you can tell the pacing is a lot better. It's much more manageable. It's telling you a good story. It's telling you more about the characters, and it's not just jumping from one point to another point to another point to another point vigorously. You know, it's not doing that anymore, which is great. There's still some issues for sure, but I think that's generally in any series that's based on a light novel. Honestly, it's not just Danmachi that has this issue. ReZero, season 2, 24 episode season, still had some of those issues. And you look at any other light novel based series, it will face the same exact issues. However, that doesn't mean you can't manage it. And I mean, perfect examples of this are the Railgun series seasons. You know, the anime for Railgun is well handled, and it's made by the same studio, JC staff. So I'm glad that they finally recognized that Danmachi needed that extra core. Basically, it needed those extra episodes, so that huge improvement in the production, in the episode count, was much desired, and it's finally come to fruition. And I'm hoping they keep this and move along with this sort of pace in terms of making sure it's a 2 core whenever the next season comes out, or whatever they plan on doing next. It needs to happen. They can't revert back to this single core season, because it just does not work. It absolutely does not work. Now, another thing that they did in this season that I really liked, and finally it's happened. I'm surprised it didn't happen earlier on. I thought he would have come on in season 3, but Omori sensei is finally taking a much more integral role in the production of the anime. He's actually playing a hand in making the anime, which is fantastic, which means that he's able to make sure everything is going the way he wants it to go. Because of course, one of the things, this is actually from one of his interviews, I don't remember when it was said, but this was way back when, is this whole harem and, you know, Bell and his many women, you know, storyline that is being toyed around with and whatnot. It actually wasn't supposed to be there. It was his editor insisting on that happening, and of course Omori, being a young editor at the time, a young author at the time, I should say, obviously succumbed to it. But then JC staff took with it and, you know, made it the way it was in season 1, and of course in season 2 it was also present. But season 3 onwards, you could tell that it had a, you know, lower amount from there on. And of course season 4 seems to be like, you can tell that Omori is playing a bit of a role in season 4 as well, with the story being much more grounded, much more in line with the light novels, which is what it needs to be. It needs to be like that. So again, huge kudos to Omori for finally being able to take part in the anime production and make it the way he wants it to make it. Because of course he, for those of you who don't know, he has a huge role in producing the stories for the Danmachi gacha game, Danmachi Memoria Freeze. So the fact that he's finally doing it also for the anime is very nice, and I'm glad to see it happen, because it was definitely needed. I know, in all honesty, it was 100% needed. So I'm glad that that's happening, of course. And you can tell, again, like I said, you can tell that that's happening in the story. And then of course the animation. Let's talk about the animation a little bit, because I know some people are very hit or miss, and honestly JC staff itself is very hit or miss when it comes to animation. Sometimes they can do a great job, and always, obviously, when I talk about animation, I also have to include sounds and sound effects and stuff. Sound effects, I don't think I've ever had an issue with JC staff. They've done a fantastic job when it comes to sound effects every single time. Danmachi, Railgun, Index, and you name it, they've done a good job on sound effects. It's usually animation where it can be a bit hit or miss, and I will say it's been in the middle for me for animation. CGI wise, it's been a bit of a miss, but to be honest, the industry itself is still adapting to CGI properly now. Obviously, with the likes of Superhero, Demon Slayer, JJK, and stuff like that starting to show the true beauty of CGI, and even some indie shows, I would say. By indie shows, I mean some, out there shows like D4DJ, which was completely 3D CGI, was fantastic in my personal opinion. So I think the industry is starting to get a grasp of using CGI a little bit more, but in my personal opinion, it's not that bad. Obviously, I do know a lot of people will point out the recent trailer that dropped for season 4, and I must admit, it is a little bit hit or miss in there, but as well. But I think for the most part, it's not the worst looking CGI I've seen. I've seen worse. I'm looking at you, Overlord, and Ari Ferreira, and Berserk. Looking at all three of you, those three shows were horrendous when it came to CGI. But Danmachi isn't too bad. It's a little bit jarring, but not too jarring, I would say. It's okay. And I think that, of course, they're trying to make sure that they're allocating the resources appropriately. Because remember, the anime industry and the anime production scene isn't the easiest place to work in. You have to be careful of the resources. You have to be careful of the time you have to produce these resources and produce the material you're asked to produce. So I think them taking their time with it and splitting up the resources, which is what I'm hoping they're doing, is coming to fruition. And then hopefully, the fights against the Juggernaut and stuff like that is much better looking, of course. So fingers crossed, that's the way it's working, right? Now, what do I mean by... So those are my thoughts on Danmachi Season 4 so far. My thoughts are that because, in all honesty, I think they're doing a good job. They're doing a great job. The VAs are doing a phenomenal job. I'm not going to talk about the VAs too much because all of them are doing a brilliant job. I don't have to talk about them too much. But the music, the sound is fantastic. Animation, hit or miss. The involvement of Omori Sensei in the production of the anime, along with the increased episode count, was much needed, first and foremost, and is definitely appreciated at this point. So absolutely hats off. I'm very much looking forward to the second half of the season. But what do I expect from here on out? Once season 4 is done, what do I think is going to happen? Well, I think a couple of things will happen, first and foremost. Well, of course, a couple of things will happen. First and foremost, for those of you who don't know, the 10th anniversary of Danmachi is this year. Actually, on January 15th, it is the 10th anniversary of Danmachi. And one of the biggest things that they've announced is that they've got these 10 projects releasing, out of which they've announced 6 of them. There's 4 more projects to be announced, which one of them I'm expecting to be something anime related. Now, I will say this, don't expect a season 5 for Danmachi anytime soon. The thing is, right, Danmachi's light novels go up to 17 at the moment, with 18 releasing later this month. That is to say, end January 2023. And with the anime almost caught up, basically, we're on volume 14 now. Potentially, like I said earlier on, we might be going to volume 15 maybe in this season. I'm not sure yet. There is a very high chance that we could be 3 volumes behind, basically, in terms of the anime. So I don't think they'll want to rush the anime and catch up to the light novels that soon. So what do I think is going to happen? Well, I expect a couple of things. First and foremost, a movie. I think a movie is very likely to happen. I mean, one of the biggest things that they could do is something with Athena, right? I think Athena has been name dropped a couple of times, both in Arrow of the Orion. I think we've heard her name in Arrow of the Orion, and then in Danmemo as well. We've seen her being name dropped as well when we interact with Aphrodite. So I expect one of those two things to happen. If it is going to be an Athena movie, basically, of course, following up on those stories effectively. Maybe a sequel to Arrow of the Orion, obviously involving Athena this time around instead, right? Another thing that I could see happening is, of course, the continuation of Sword Art Rotoria, which is going to be very interesting, of course, because the first season was horrendous, honestly. That was when, I feel like JC staff didn't know what they wanted to do with Danmachi, and they ruined, effectively, Aiza's character, Lafia's character, and the entire Loki familia in one shot, basically. Hopefully, if they do Sword Art Rotoria, I would prefer if they just remade season 1 and made it better. But of course, alongside with that, I would hope it would be under the vision of Omori Sensei. Again, just like this season, Omori Sensei needs to stick around for whatever is going to be happening from here on out in the Danmachi anime franchise, basically. It has to happen. So, like I said, it's very likely Sword Art Rotoria could get a second season or a remake. One of the two. I would hope it's one of the two at least. And then finally, the third thing that I think could happen is that we could see a actual anime adaptation of one of the Danmemo stories, one of the Danmemo anniversary stories. Either it could be Vesta, the Vesta story from the 4th anniversary, which again could work as a little bit of a sequel to Arrow of the Orion. I think that could work. Then you could have potentially Argonaut story, which would be much appreciated. I think everybody loves the Argonaut story, and it's one of the most well received stories in the game franchise that we have right now, or the gaming stories that we have right now from Danmemo. Then there is obviously Estrella Record that they could do, which obviously has a lot of reveals, especially in terms of Belle's relationships to certain characters, and obviously Ryu's past, as well as a big backstory on what happened in Orario. And then obviously they could, well, Knights of Fianna would have to be after Argonaut. So I would say those 3 stories could be an anime adaptation. I think I would appreciate any single one of them, to be quite honest, but that's also something that's possible. So you have these 3 plausibilities, but the big thing I want from all 3 of them is that A, they have to be under Omori's supervision, Omori Sensei's supervision. But number 2, give them the right episode count more than anything else. I don't mind if the animation is a little bit hit or miss, or you know, if anything else is a little bit off, you know, in terms of content being slightly cut or whatever it may be, because the moment you give it enough time, you give it enough episodes, you will automatically give yourself enough time to produce the anime, which means you'll get enough time to drag out some stuff, allow you to reallocate resources appropriately, rather than maybe having to waste it all on one scene and then you can't use it for another scene, and so on and so forth. It gives them more time, and especially if you do it like a split core, like this season was done, where one half of the season was done in the summer season, and then the second half was done in the winter season, so there was a break of the fall season. It's also much better for the producers and animators to be able to do it as well. So there's a couple of things that they could do here when it comes to the season, but 100% they need to have a higher episode count, because it just gives them more time to be able to tell the story rather than try and rush everything into one small 11 episode season. So those are the things that I think about what's to come for Danmachi, and I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Again, it's a little bit of a different video. Hopefully y'all liked it. Obviously I put some images on screen as well consistently, so that you guys can see some of the beauty of the series as well, of course. And let me know what other videos would you like to see in terms of the anime or anything of that sort. I'm very much down to do anything related to Danmachi, so as long as you guys are interested, I will do it. But thank you guys so much for watching. Once again, if you enjoyed this video, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and I will see you guys next time. Take it easy, everybody. Bye bye.